That shed is in violation of Section 3, subsection B. You owe the association a fine.
According to this survey right here, the shed is entirely on my property.
Blue lights washed my living room, while the smell of wet asphalt slid in through the mail slot. It was 9:00 p.m., May 3rd, 2024, and I was on the porch in socks, hugging a mug of coffee that had gone cold. The HOA president, Karen with the neon visor and a clipboard, pointed at my side yard like she'd found buried treasure. She said I owed a $250 fine for storing construction materials on the sidewalk. I stared at the so-called materials. It was my dad's cedar shed, built in 1974, leaning like an old dog but still upright 3 feet off the city walk. A security guard's flashlight flickered. The air bit at my ankles. Karen said, "Pay now, or daily penalties start at midnight." This is HOA Find Me on the Sidewalk. For a 1974 shed. Then I filed the survey, because that's what the fight became in one sentence. I told her the shed had sat there since before I was born, and that the sidewalk wasn't even HOA property. She smiled like a cat, and slid the ticket at me anyway. She said the board voted, 7 complaints in 1 week. I looked across the street. Curtains twitched. A neighbor's door closed soft like a secret. I felt small, embarrassed, angry, all at once, holding a ticket that smelled like printer toner and cheap perfume. Next morning I tried the polite route. I wore a clean polo and sat in the clubhouse under buzzing lights and a dusty fake fern. I told them the shed predates the HOA by decades. I brought my dad's Polaroid, dated June 2nd, 1978. The treasurer scrolled his phone. Karen said rules are rules. Another board member coughed into her sleeve and wouldn't meet my eyes. I asked for the survey showing the sidewalk under HOA control. Silence. The property manager finally said, "We don't have to show you anything." On my way out, a neighbor whispered, "Sorry," and stepped back like I had something catching. I went home, stared at the shed, and felt a line draw itself across my ribs. No drama, no screaming. Only proper channels from here. I got busy. I filed a public records request with the city for easements, plats, and code enforcement notes. A week later, the file landed with 63 pages. I sat at my kitchen table, breathing in the smell of manila folders and highlighter ink, tracing lines like train tracks. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. Timeline item 1, April 5 at 4:27 a.m., false trespass call. Timeline item 2, April 9 at 6:10 p.m., board vote with no notice. Timeline item 3, May 1 at 7:45 a.m., Karen's porch photo of my shed. I called the county survey office. I paid $120 for a stamped boundary survey. I promised myself out loud, only legal moves, no petty junk. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. That sentence sat warm in my head. The stakes showed up first. Bright orange caps hammered into the earth by a county surveyor with forearms like tree trunks. He measured from the iron pin at the corner and said quietly, "Your shed is 2 feet inside your lot, and the sidewalk is city right-of-way, not HOA." We scheduled a public walkthrough with the city inspector for June 12th at 3:00 p.m. I printed giant copies of the plat map, blew up the 1978 Polaroid, and clipped them to foam boards. On the day, I dragged the boards to the sidewalk, set up a folding table, and poured lemonade. Neighbors drifted over, phones up, kids on scooters leaving chalk trails. Karen marched out in her visor, flanked by 2 board members and a portable speaker. She started a speech about community standards. I flipped the first board. The survey lines glowed blue against white. The inspector nodded and asked her, "Where is your authority over city property?" Karen blinked fast. The treasurer started sweating through his collar. I slid the binder over, open to the receipts montage line I'd rehearsed. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. People leaned in. I turned to the page with the early morning false trespass call and tapped the timestamp. The inspector read aloud, "The city owns the sidewalk, and the HOA has no jurisdiction to fine a homeowner for a structure on private property." Someone on the corner laughed. A teenager whispered, "She got cooked." Karen tried to grab the mic back from her speaker, and it squealed. My neighbor with a door that closed like a secret lifted her phone and said into the camera, he filed the survey. The comments on the HOA's Facebook page exploded before sunset. One said, "Imagine finding a shed older than your highlights." By 6:30 p.m., a patrol car rolled up slow. The officer asked for statements about the 4:27 a.m. call and the repeated reports of sidewalk obstruction. The inspector handed him a copy of the stamped survey. The officer looked at Karen and said, "Ma'am, false reports waste public resources. Remember, patterns of false reports can be prosecuted." The board's lawyer showed up late, tie crooked, and asked to see the plat. He read, went pale, and whispered to Karen. At the emergency board meeting on June 20th, the city council liaisons sat in the front row. The board rescinded 8 fines, including my $250 ticket, and voted to remove Karen as president for cause. The police closed the complaint file with a warning letter. The treasurer resigned on the spot. The week after, the neighborhood felt lighter. Kids chalked a bright blue line where the survey stakes had been, and we turned it into a little parade path with paper pinwheels. The HOA mailed a check for $120 to reimburse my survey fee and a formal apology, typed in a font that looked nervous. Karen's visor disappeared. She kept her house, but she has to attend a training on proper authority and file a monthly compliance report. The new president came by with a warm apple pie and said, "We've got to do better." I believed her. I sat on my porch at sunset, the shed smelling like old cedar and summer rain, and watched my neighbor from across the street bring over a stack of disposable cups. She said, "Sorry" again, this time looking me in the eye. I said, "We're okay." We clinked lemonade. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.